Hi guys, welcome back to my little corner on booktube. So today I'm gonna be doing sorry, I'm outside today. Today I'm gonna be doing a review of The School for Good and Evil, Book 2, A World Without Princes. So my non-spoilery thoughts of this is basically that I enjoyed the book. I love the characters sometimes. Sometimes the characters were doing things that made sense. Other times they were not doing things that would make sense. They were still falling into old patterns of not knowing the difference between good and evil, really holding on to believing that some people were good even though, certain evidence was showing otherwise. The plot, there was new characters introduced, of course, a new villain, so like the schoolmaster, obviously now this is getting into spoilers, he died in book 1, but he comes back. He comes back at the end of this book. It's a very interesting to see like the past, basically before the two girls were in the school, and seeing just how like the things that happened 10 years ago are literally affecting their story now. Like, it's actually wild. Now heading into the more spoilery stuff. Like, we start off this book now where they are back in Gavaldon. They are no longer at the School for Good and Evil. They're back in Gavaldon because they wished for each other, and now they're back. However, things were chilled for a bit. They were chilled for a time until both started kind of feeling unsatisfied. Sophie was having all these like nightmare dreams, and like she was having dreams like where she was tasting blood at the end. So she was having nemesis dreams. And then Agatha was no longer kind of feeling satisfied with just a friend. So the very things that I critiqued Sophie for in the first big book, I have kind of given Agatha leeway, which shows my character bias. I obviously love Agatha more than Sophie, but I should still hold my same critique for Sophie with Agatha. I should also be critiquing Agatha for choosing a man over her friendship. Okay, so as I'm editing this video, I just wanted to pause and like add some of my thoughts here. The reason why I'm not critiquing Agatha, right, for wanting Tedros, whereas in the first book I critiqued Sophie for wanting Tedros, is because with Agatha, right, it seems as though when I was reading that book, but it's been a while, so I could be wrong here, but it seems as though, from what I can recall, she wants both Sophie and Tedros. Right, obviously she probably was regretting her decision or whatever. Maybe she should have stayed, maybe but I think she wants both Sophie and Tedros, and that's also evident in the third book as well, where she wants a friend and her man, versus with Sophie, it seemed as though she was willing to trade Agatha for Tedros. So she would get rid of Agatha to be with Tedros, versus with Agatha, it seems as though she wants both Sophie and Tedros, even though she's got her doubts and all that kind of stuff. But again, this book is not fresh on my mind, so I could be wrong. One thing I didn't like about this book is that like it was like an either or. It's like you either have your best friend or you have your prince. And I'm just like, why can't we have both, guys? Why can't we have a best friend and a prince? And obviously in this world, it's a world of fairy tales, and in a lot of fairy tales, when you really look at them, they never end well for the witch. And in this story, Sophie is the witch, but also not at the same time, because now both of them make wishes. Sophie makes a wish because she really wants to see her mother again, and Agatha makes a wish, she wants to see Tedros because she really has been missing Tedros this whole time. And when she got back to Gavaldon, like, her cat no longer liked her anymore. Her cat used to scratch her all the time and all that kind of stuff, realizing that there's something different with Agatha. And she kept going, no, it's the same old me, even though we all know she had some character development in the first book, and because of that, she's no longer the same person that she used to be, whether she likes it or not. And both of them make wishes, and these wishes open up the gates back to the fairy tale world, back to the School for Good and Evil. So now, fast forwarding a little bit, they both end up now back at the School for Good and Evil. However, the School for Good and Evil isn't the School for Good and Evil anymore. The School for Good and Evil is actually the School for Boys and Girls, which I'm like, wait, what? And I just wanted to show you, like, I think at every single book before you begin, like, you see like artwork and stuff. The artwork here, always top tier, always chef's kiss. Love the artwork in these books. Each chapter has its own artwork that has something to do with the chapter, so I just love it. Like this is chapter 1, right? Like, it's just beautiful, so beautiful. And then, like, let me try and find another one. Like, the artwork here, literally so amazing. Anyways, yeah, so artwork, awesome. Chef's kiss, always will be commenting on that because it's just so beautiful, and each chapter has such beautiful artwork, honestly, like at the beginning. Yeah, anyway, so they end up back now at the School for Boys and Girls, and obviously that means now boys are at their own school and girls are at their own school. And the whole reason why it's no longer the School for Good and Evil and it's the School for Boys and Girls is because of their story and the way that it ended, with them both going off together back to Gavaldon, which actually just tore the whole freaking fairy tale world apart. Because of their story, princesses were like, you know what, screw men, we don't need men. And I'm just like, okay, we don't need men. So they kick their princes out of literally their palaces. The princes get kicked out of their palaces, the men get kicked out of their palaces. Like, it's just wild, absolute wildness, like madness. And now witches and princesses are becoming besties. They're like, what? We were always, enemies because of the men. And I'm just like, no, y'all were enemies because of these nemesis dreams and this, that, and the third. But anyway, so because of that now, like, princes are being casted out and females are being like praised, and like what the women want now is for men to be their slaves and for women to be their like the dominant ones and for the men to be like the oppressed ones. And I'm just like, what is happening here? Like, this is bad. So you come back to a really hostile environment now where the men are in the School for Evil and the girls are in the School for Good, but obviously it's been rebranded to the School for Girls and it's been rebranded to the School for Boys, and it's just crazy, actually really just wild. And Tedros, is out here. He stole the what you call this now, he stole the Storian. He stole the Storian. So now the schoolmaster's tower is in the boys' side. Like, it's actually all wild stuff. And we also have new deans, obviously, for the different schools. The dean for the School of Girls, I don't remember who this dean for the School of Boys was. I think it was Professor Manley. And then the dean for the School of Girls is a new character, a new person in the story, which is Dean Seda, the sister of Professor Seda, the seer, who, I love Professor Seda, but this is Dean Seda, and she's a woman. And she's got there's so much with her. Like, she's crazy, and she's also mad powerful. Like, all the teachers are afraid of her. Lady Lesso and Professor Duvet, both afraid of of Dean Seda. So they don't mess with her because she's powerful, and if you mess with her, you get attacked. So ain't nobody trying to mess with her. But now, because the girls are back, right, these two, Lady Lesso and Professor Seda, are trying to fix this whole mess. They're trying to fix this whole mess of now all the stories, all the fairy tales basically have been messed up. Their endings have been messed up because of these two girls. Because of these two girls, they've literally changed the whole world, the fairy tale world anyways. And these two professors, Lady Lesso and Professor Duvet, these two past deans, want to make things right. And in order for things to be made right, Agatha has to choose Tedros this time, because if you remember from book 1, Tedros was who she was supposed to end up with, but then she chose Agatha chose Sophie instead of Tedros. So she should not make this mistake that mistake this time. Does she? Yes, many times. She makes the exact same mistake because she wants to believe that Sophie is good. She wants to be like, no, Sophie's good. Yes, even when we see Sophie's symptoms popping up, even when we see A, B, C, D, E, F, and G happening, I want to believe that Sophie is good. And unfortunately, that's not the case. However, I do personally believe that Sophie has to acknowledge that she's evil first in order for her to progress. And until she acknowledges that and is fine with that, we're not going to get anywhere. Because I'm just thinking about Hester, Anadol, and Dot. They're fine with, minus Dot. Dot's got her issues. But, because she's like, But Anadol and Hester, they are so nice, even though they mean sometimes. They mean, they're like, guys, a coven's not 4, a coven's 3. And I'm just like, why you gotta be so mean to her, you know? But for the most part, they're actually pretty chilled and really nice to Agatha. So I'm just thinking, they have embraced their evilness and they're pretty chill. So why don't you do the same thing? The more you deny it, the stronger it gets. And the same thing happens with Agatha's feelings, because she gets disgusted by Tedros, because she's like, dude, this guy is the whole reason this place is a mess. Now there's even a war that could start between girls and boys, all because of this child. Technically it's actually all because of her, because she made the wish, to be with Tedros, and he opened the floodgates, even though Evelyn also opened the floodgates. Evelyn Sader, Dean Sader, same thing. Yeah, anyways, there's just so much that happened in this book. Another thing that I didn't like about this book is the commenting on people's bodies that was happening a bit too much for my liking. I did not like that. So there was a bit of fat phobia happening here, because Dot in the first book, she was but on the plus size side, right? And I'm like, yeah, cool, awesome. But obviously she had issues with the body. And in the second book, because now Never Girls and Ever Girls can kind of start to experiment in terms of Never Girls can now start wearing makeup. They can now actually start putting effort into their looks. And the reverse happens for the Evers, where the Evers are like, we don't have to put effort into our looks anymore. We don't have to wear makeup anymore. We don't have to, be careful of what we eat, because we're not trying to impress Princess. And I'm like, why were you doing that for Princess in the first place? But anyways, I keep quiet. What you call this now? Yeah, so both sides now start kind of experimenting with things that they were never allowed to do previously. And Dot now, who in the first book always was eating chocolate and all that kind of stuff, now she only eats kale, and she's become really slim. And there's been such annoying remarks and comments on people's bodies, and how they were talking about, now we can't distinguish between Ever Girls and Never Girls, because Never Girls are always supposed to look ugly, and they're always supposed to be fat, and they're always supposed to be this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, but why are we putting fat as a negative thing? Why is that that fat is not always a negative thing? Anyways, that's just how some people's bodies are formed. I don't know why. Yeah, anyway, so certain remarks about people's bodies were made, and I was not about that life at all. I didn't like it. So yeah, that was a part of the books. It only happens a couple of times at the beginning, and then we don't really see much of it when we keep going. But that did annoy me a little bit, because I'm like, why are we making remarks on people's bodies? I don't like that. But anyways, Agatha starts off by wanting to go and meet Tedros. She starts off by wanting to go meet Tedros so that she can make things right? Because whether they like it or not, she's not going to choose Sophie, and the more she denies these feelings for Tedros, the stronger they get. So she starts off by wanting to actually go and see Tedros, and she does. And then they were just about to kiss. Things were they were talking, they were going fun, even though I'm like, why do you guys have such intense emotions and feelings for each other? Y'all didn't gel with each other that long. You didn't gel with each other that long. So I was a bit these emotions are a bit too intense for me, because you guys didn't know each other that long romantically. Obviously you were in the same school for a couple of months until everything kind of just went downhill, but you guys did not know each other romantically for long. So why are the feelings so intense? I don't get it. That needs to be sorted out a little bit. That was a bit y'all just met, romantically speaking, not too long ago. What's going on? But anyways, so that was a bit annoying for me. Yeah, and obviously that unfortunately prevails throughout the book. But then obviously, as they were about to kiss, Sophie, being the I want my best friend person that she is, and I don't want her to be with her mans, even though like I don't think it was coming from a malicious place, though it was malicious. Whether she likes it or not, it was malicious. So inevitably she like cast a spell basically to break them apart so that they don't. Oh wait, no. So they were about to kiss and stuff, but then just as that was about to happen, Tedros immediately was like, nope, she's here somewhere. Immediately senses that Sophie is in this room. Doesn't know where she is, but he can immediately sense that she's here. And then Agatha's like, no, she's not here. Why do you never trust me? And then they start pointing their fingers at each other, about to blast a spell, but none of them were actually going to do anything. And then Sophie blasts a spell. Woo! And then they both now start not trusting each other anymore. So Agatha thinks that Tedros attacked her. Tedros thinks that Agatha attacked her. However, all of this time it was Sophie. Bad move, obviously bad move. But I understand. Like, I'm not going to be bashing Sophie like I did in the first book. I understand, because she really just wants to be with her friend, and she believes that when she's with Agatha, she is good. Unfortunately, that's really not the case, but that's what she believes. And she really just wants to be with her friend. However, unfortunately, that doesn't last, because people talk about a friendship built on lies isn't a friendship at all. That's why I'm like, destroy that foundation, apologize to each other, and actually showcase that you will change, because a relationship that is not built on trust, unfortunately, whether people like it or not, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Anyways, eventually the trust between these two does get broken, because eventually in the trials basically they let me see what this thing is called, because all the time I'm like, the trial by something, trial by tale. It's called trial by tale. Okay, like right here, this is the list for the girls. Anyways, so in the trial by tales, a whole situation that they have, which was supposed to be to the death, unlike the other ones, to the death, hectic. Anyway, Agatha starts realizing that this whole time Sophie has been deceiving her, even though Sophie does actually turn into a boy. Basically, she turns into a boy, or the outside appearance of a man, of a boy, so that she can infiltrate the school of boys and then get the story and back. That never ends up happening. She actually ends up going into the trial as a man, as Philip. Anyway, which is quite interesting name to choose, because that was the name that was supposed to be given to her brother who was never born. So she chose that name. Very, very interesting name choice. Anyway, so she chose that name and she went around as Philip, and she eventually gained the trust of Tedros. And then Tedros was out here again, this man, and the way he just connects to people instantly, and then he has such intense emotions to people who he just met is wild. Sophie was in the school for boys as Philip for 3 days. 3 days. And then in the trials, he's like, you're my best friend. Now I'm starting to understand why Sophie and Agatha will always choose each other, and why I gotta kill Sophie. And I'm just like, bro, you just met Philip. Like 3 days ago. How are you talking about this man so intensely? Anyways, then obviously Agatha starts realizing now, okay, maybe Sophie might not be what I'm thinking, because she's under the impression all the time, making excuses for Sophie. No, Sophie's good. No, it can't be Sophie who did A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Can't be Sophie. Right? Because she's really trying to trust her friend. Even though there's a lot of evidence pointing against Sophie, she's like, no, it's not Sophie. Stop asking me if I can trust Sophie. It's not Sophie. Lo and behold, it's Sophie. Lo and behold, it is Sophie. Sophie is the one, unfortunately, whether she liked it or not, where all this different evidence, pointing to Sophie in terms of like, there was a boy's uniform and invisible snake skin under Beatrix's bed. I think that's how I say it, Beatrix. But that was Sophie's. in terms of like Sophie having like I forgot this like kind of crocodile creatures marks on her legs. Yep, so that Sophie was in the school for boys. Yeah, she snuck there. Obviously, when Agatha went to go and meet Tedros, Sophie was also going to stop their kiss from happening. But anyway, yeah, so it was Sophie. Sophie was there. She was trying to mess things up, because I don't think she's really thinking about it in terms of like messing this thing up and like not making a friend happy. I think she was thinking about it in terms of like, well, I want my friend and I'll do anything to have my friend. Even though obviously just because you're motivated to grab your friend back doesn't mean that it doesn't have really bad consequences. Anyway, so moral of the story is, long story short, you know, they both end up on opposite sides. Evelyn brings the schoolmaster back. Oh my goodness. Evelyn brings the schoolmaster back, and then the schoolmaster kills her. He's like, you've served your purpose, thank you. I'm just like, this is how you're gonna like deal with your servants, the ones who've humbly served you and loyally served you. This is how you're gonna deal with them? That's messed up. That's really messed up. And the book ends basically with Agatha having to choose between Sophie and Tedros, and she chooses Tedros. And then Agatha chooses Tedros, and then obviously Sophie chooses the schoolmaster, and they both go off their separate ways. Let me actually try and read where is it? Okay, so now this is like at the end, the schoolmaster is back, and because basically Evelyn tricked Sophie. So Sophie was wishing for a mom. She wanted to see her mom again, and then Evelyn tricked her into seeing her mom, and then her mom's like, you gotta kiss me, okay? And then Sophie's here like, you know, no one, actually, let me just read all of this to you. Let me just read it all to you, because it is wild. Nah, it's gonna take too long to read, honestly. But yeah, the moral of the story basically is Evelyn Sader tricks Sophie into kissing her mom, who turns into the schoolmaster, right? Because yeah, there's a whole thing in the book where like the schoolmaster kept a piece of his soul in like Evelyn, so that if there was a time where he would die, the only way he would come back was through this method, through Sophie wishing for the schoolmaster and meaning it. But Sophie was actually wishing for a mom. She was wishing for a mom. However, this ended up being the schoolmaster. Because she's like, I'm wishing for my mom, you know, no one loves me. And then the mom is like, no, there is someone who does love you, and he will love you a lot. So now Sophie ends up kissing her mom. And then this mom starts disappearing, and now all of a sudden she's kissing somebody else, and before she knows it, she's kissing the schoolmaster. And then the schoolmaster's back now, okay? The schoolmaster's back because of Sophie's wish for the mom, which ended up turning to Sophie's wish for the schoolmaster, because the schoolmaster loves her. Yeah, because he doesn't actually love her, like, because there's no such thing as evil's love, guys, okay? Even in this book, it's like, you know what's stronger than true love's kiss? Evil's love. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. Okay, yeah, so that happens, and then literally the book ends, I underlined it, with this: vanishing home with her stunned prince, Agatha watched the schoolmaster sneer at her and clasp Sophie in his cold stone grip as they floated together off the ground, receding towards his tower in the sky. Sophie and Agatha locked eyes one last time, but neither screamed for the other. One true love, two girls now pulled apart like strangers, each in the arms of a boy, good with good, evil with evil. Both of their wishes granted. And that's how it ends. It ends with both of their wishes being granted, kind of. You know, Sophie's with someone who loves her, and Agatha is with someone who loves her. Yeah, hectic stuff, guys, hectic. By the way, I wanted to make a comment that in the beginning of this book, like in the school for girls and the school for boys, for some reason Pink is banned. this is why I was also having a bit of like wondering if I should have a bit of commentary in terms of like how they demonize feminine, like the way that the school for girls like demonize feminine qualities. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I'm like, what's wrong with liking pink? What's wrong with being feminine? What's wrong with all of these things? Like, I just found that to be a bit annoying. And it's a bit stereotypical in the sense of male roles and female roles. That was a bit annoying. Certain things I was like, yeah, and then other things I was like, no. Why is it an issue for women to like pink in the story, even though, you know, they're supposed to be like warring against the guys? I just didn't like that pink was evil. I mean, I don't personally like pink. My favorite color is yellow, but like, don't demonize the women who love pink, you know. But yeah, anyways, so overall I thought the book was interesting. I gave the book 4 stars, so I really did enjoy it, though I'm wondering if it should have been 3.75, but I'm gonna just leave it because at the end of the day I'm not really the intended audience for this book. So wow, I'm sweating like a lot. At the end of the day, I'm not the intended audience for this book. So I mean, I really did enjoy it. I'm sure for people who are like under the middle grade / like younger side of young adult, I think they would really enjoy this book. Yeah, I think it was really interesting in terms of commenting on so many different things in terms of like male and female roles, even though it was a bit stereotypical. And then talking about, you know, if the boys in the stories aren't saving the woman, does it mean that men are useless now? You know, all that kind of questions that this book stirs. It's like, okay, so if the prince doesn't save the princess, does that mean that he's useless? Does it mean that we should kick princes out and that they're not necessary in any of the books anymore because women can save themselves? You know, all the questions I think would be interesting to talk about and comment on. But yeah, overall I really did enjoy this book. It was really interesting. I cannot wait to read book 3, but I'm reading a different book first before I can jump into book 3, because book 3 will be a reading vlog, because I have never read book 3 before. I've read book 1 and I've read book 2, but I did not read book 3. So I cannot wait to see what I think about book 3 and to see how this whole dynamic, if it's going to stay the same, if it's going to change, what is going to happen. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you in another one. Bye guys.